All right, let's get right into it. We're about to explore the story of a mind so unique, well, just completely different from almost anyone in the history of math. We're talking about a man whose ideas, born from poverty and divine visions over a century ago, are still helping us unlock the deepest secrets of the universe today. This is the incredible story of Srinivasa Ramanujan.
So, where does a story like this even begin? It starts with a letter. In 1913, this letter shows up in Cambridge, England, from a young clerk in India. And look at how it starts. No big claims, no bragging, just this incredibly humble opening. But what was inside that letter? Well, that was about to change the world of mathematics forever.
And that's really the big question we're digging into, isn't it? How does a guy with basically no formal university training, living thousands of miles away, just reinvent huge chunks of modern math? Where did all of that incredible, unbelievable insight come from? What was his secret?
So picture this. You're G.H. Hardy. You're a world-famous mathematician at Trinity College, one of the most prestigious places on Earth. And this letter lands on your desk. It's just crammed, page after page, with these dense, wild formulas, from some guy you've never even heard of in Madras, India.
Naturally, Hardy's first thought is, okay, who is this person? Is this a joke? A prank? But then he and his colleague, J.E. Littlewood, they sit down and actually start going through it, and wow, their skepticism just melts away into pure awe. Some formulas they kind of recognize, others they can prove, but it takes them hours and hours, and a lot of it is just so new, so strange, they have no idea what to even do with it.
And this is where Hardy says something amazing. He basically decides that these theorems have to be true, simply because nobody would have the creative genius to just make them up. It wasn't just about being right, it was the sheer imagination behind them. This wasn't some clever student, this was a master. And Hardy knew right then and there, I have to get this man to Cambridge.
Simple, right? Just invite him over. But Ramanujan says no, at first anyway. And this is where we get to the first real secret of his genius. You see, his ideas weren't born in a classroom or from a textbook. They came from somewhere else entirely. They came from the divine.
You have to understand, these two worlds could not have been more different. In Cambridge, math was all about strict, step-by-step proofs. Every single claim had to be built on a foundation of logic. Ramanujan, he didn't work like that at all. His mind would just make these massive intuitive leaps. He'd have an answer, a beautiful formula, and he'd say it just came to him in a dream. And listen, he wasn't being poetic. He meant that literally. As a devout Hindu, he truly believed that his mathematical gifts came directly from his family's deity, the goddess Namagiri. For him, there was no line between math and spirituality. An equation wasn't just symbols, it was a thought from God.
So you can see the conflict here, right? As a Brahmin, crossing the ocean was a major religious taboo. He'd essentially become an outcast. The only reason he ever agreed to go to England was because his mother had a vivid dream where the goddess Namagiri herself appeared and told her to let her son go, to let him fulfill his destiny.
So in 1914, Ramanujan arrives. A strict vegetarian, a deeply religious man, suddenly dropped into the cold, alien world of Cambridge, right as World War I is breaking out. I mean, can you even imagine the culture shock? It was freezing, the food was strange, he had to cook all his own meals just to stick to his religious diet. It was incredibly difficult for him. This quote from Hardy really says it all about their relationship. Hardy wasn't Ramanujan's teacher. He was more like his translator. His job was to take this raw, intuitive genius and give it the structure of formal proof so the Western world could understand it. But Hardy was always clear about who the real master was. He said, I learned way more from him than he ever learned from me.
And even with all those struggles, his talent was just undeniable. His rise was absolutely meteoric. In just a few short years, he gets the equivalent of a PhD from Cambridge, and then he's showered with the highest honors in British science, including becoming a Fellow of the Royal Society. We're talking about joining the same club as Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin. It was an incredible, unprecedented achievement.
But this golden age, this amazing partnership, it didn't last. It was all so tragically short. After just a few years of brilliant work, Ramanujan got sick, really sick. The cold English climate, the difficulty of getting the right food during the war, it all took a terrible toll on his health.
And here is another of Ramanujan's secrets. And this one is just heartbreaking.
At the time, they diagnosed him with tuberculosis, which was basically a death sentence. But today, modern medical experts have looked at his symptoms, and they're pretty sure he actually had a parasitic infection, something that, even back then, could have been treated. His death, at just 32 years old, was very likely preventable.
Believing the warmer climate of his home might save him, he sailed back to India in 1919. He was weak, he was dying, but his mind was still on fire. And in early 1920, he sent one last, mysterious letter to Hardy, filled with ideas that were even stranger and more advanced than anything he'd sent before.
He called this final discovery Mach theta functions. What does that even mean? Well, he didn't really provide a clear definition. It was like he was leaving behind one last giant puzzle for the world to solve. And for decades, nobody had a clue what he was talking about. It was a complete mystery.
After he died, everyone just assumed that was it, that the full scope of his final, brilliant ideas was just gone, forever. All the mathematical world had left were the tantalizing, confusing clues in that final letter.
For more than 50 years, the secrets of these Mach theta functions and the final thoughts of this incredible mind just hung there as a complete and total enigma.
And then, something happened that's straight out of a movie. Not in some high-tech lab, but in a dusty old box, in a library archive, right back at Trinity College, where it all began.
The year is 1976. An American mathematician named George Andrews is visiting Trinity, sifting through a box of old papers. And he pulls out this stack of 138 pages, just covered in frantic scribbles and equations, and he instantly recognizes that handwriting. He knew exactly whose it was.
He had found it, Ramanujan's lost notebook. And I love this quote because it puts the discovery in perspective. Another mathematician said, finding it was like opening an old box and discovering Beethoven's lost 10th Symphony. That's how big a deal this was. It was an absolute bombshell.
So what was inside? Well, it finally cracked the code of the Mach theta functions, but it was so much more. It proved that Ramanujan, working all alone in the final year of his life, was grappling with concepts that other mathematicians wouldn't even begin to think about for another 80 years. And today, that work from his deathbed has applications in string theory, probability, and even calculating the entropy of black holes. It's just astounding.
He wasn't just solving problems. He was what mathematicians call an anticipator. He could see the future of the field. And he did it all, not with computers or vast libraries, but with a piece of chalk on a slate, channeling what he truly believed were the thoughts of God.
And that leaves us with this one last powerful thought. What if G.H. Hardy had just tossed that first letter in the trash, thinking it was from some crank? All of this, the notebooks, the theorems, the ideas that are shaping our modern world, it could have all been lost forever. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other Ramanujans are out there right now with a genius that could change everything, just waiting for someone to open their letter?